Oh no, see, I'm doing the rye with everything like the meow game. Like,
I totally thought the same thing. Did I say rye?
I'm sorry, are you saying meow? Am I saying meow?
Welcome to another episode of Power Bourbon. So, I'm not the most vocal supporter of rye whiskeys. That's probably saying it nicely.
I would say TJ, anti-supporter.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
Yeah, which, to be fair, and I'll just say this right now so he knows, is why we sent this flight to Ed, one of our great Patreons who also doesn't like rye, just because, guess what? Dodgers suck. We don't care. Cardinals win. And enjoy the Ryes. Drink along.
That's right.
So we had this idea, or TJ had this idea, to torture Charlie and to...
And I was like, right on.
There he goes again. To send him to rye sensitivity training. So what better way to maybe appreciate something than to be exposed to it? So a little bit like the middle shelf challenge that Ed had for me. TJ made me go shopping to buy some ryes. No restrictions on price point, unlike the middle shelf challenge. So he gave me a little free reign. They can be finished or straight rye whiskeys. So there's a little bit of both in here. You'll have to find out. But I'd say at the end of this, there might be a few in here that I don't mind keeping on my shelf, but you'll have to tune in, wait and see. I don't know. Maybe it went awry.
Oh, wow.
Right on. I see what you did there. So question, just for the audience here, are any of these non-finished, non-NGP, non-barrel?
Ooh. Interesting fact. There is not and MGP is one of the largest rye whiskey producers. And their traditional 95% rye mash bill is pervasive when it comes to rye whiskeys. There's actually not a single MGP, 100% MGP rye in this flight. There might be some blended, or there is some blended, but.
All right. Well, let's.
So I mean, this is truly a branch out then.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, so let's get in and start tasting.
And I'll make sure to chapter mark these so you can skip around as you need to. Since it's gonna be a little long night for us, 7 ryes.
And we all know how TJ can get long-winded.
Yeah.
I don't think you're right on that.
Just gonna make it clear right now. I'm gonna go through the whole video without a rye pun, and you're welcome.
Why would you do that?
Very traditional rye nose on this first one.
Pretty subdued.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's overly herbal or floral. I get a little sweet.
Whew.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I might use the word gentle. Gentle nose.
That's fair.
And then after taking a sip, I'm wondering if this was sent by Brian instead of Chuck, because this thing is so sweet. It feels finished like in honey.
It is not finished. It is not. This is a straight rye whiskey.
You know, I sent you American honey one time.
We will never let you forget, because you had us taste American honey before an actual bourbon, so our palate was like.
You're welcome. Yeah. Keep it interesting.
I feel like this is super low proof, like no ethanol, no burn, just honey, a hint of hay and grass on the finish. But I mean,
not those traditional, really dominant rye notes. So, something Charlie actually can enjoy drinking.
It's like the Basil Hayden of rye.
Yeah.
Oh, they do have a rye, by the way.
It's not.
I don't know.
If it was higher, if it was higher proof, I'd call it Wild Turkey Rare Breed, but it's not Wild Turkey Rare Breed.
No, definitely not.
TJ's on. What's it? Guess proof. So you said low proof, so guess proof. We'll come back to that, but
I'm gonna say, honestly, the way it's drinking, I'd say 100 proof or lower.
Yeah.
My thought was 95.
Yep.
Okay,
It's
we're
actually-
playing The Price is Right. $1.
All right, on to number 2. So I almost get some traditional bourbon notes on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm getting a little bit of brown sugar or caramel even on that.
Definitely a little charcoal, a little smoke note.
That's interesting you said that on the nose, because I didn't pick it up so much on the nose, but the palate, it really comes through.
Oh, there's a finish. There's a rye finish. Hello. So the palate is nice and creamy. Got some nice vanilla, caramel, and then comes in with a quick fix of some hay notes, which you get on a traditional rye. And then, honestly, it's weird. It like disappears, and then the finish, like I've never had a true just like break. Like, okay, it's over, and then boom, in comes the finish, pepper notes, everything that you want on a traditional rye,
Yeah.
and then just lingers, which is amazing.
Yeah,
it is interesting. I mean, you get that smokiness in the mid palate, and then it's a delay, and then that spicy pepper really lingers, but it comes in really late.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. So, echoes my thoughts exactly.
All right, so this one, number 3, you get hay, wet grass on the nose.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just smells like a field in the morning, a wet, dewy field.
And this one's definitely the first one we've got over 100 proof because it is super viscous, very oily, coats the mouth. You get a little bit of that ethanol bite, and then it just goes to a pepper rye finish. Very, very good. I still think 2's a little better though.
So this one, I get that a little bit of like caramely sweetness on the very front of the palate, and then it's just like it just finishes coating the mouth, and it's just like this nice. It is higher proof, but it's not overwhelming pepper burn. Like it's a nice baking spice and herbal, kind of all throughout the palate.
I would say compared to number 2, the finish on this one seems to linger. Like if you go back, number 2 is very nice, but the finish on 3, I would say it lasts for twice as long.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
nice.
And with the oil and viscosity, it completely coats the mouth, whereas
It does.
2 didn't quite do that.
I'm enjoying this lineup, Charlie. Well,
Mhm.
well done.
Well, of course, you're the
this is
rye
right
fan.
on. Right on, buddy. It's like you made this for me. Is it my birthday? Because man,
I'm
it
actually
feels
glad
like
to hear that you're liking it though, because it's this. I would almost classify this as the Bourbon Drinker's Rye Flight,
Yeah.
and so that it's still titillating the palate of a true rye drinker is quite a feat.
I would, yeah. I mean, it's really good for me. Some of I'm hoping for a slight escalation in some of these finishes to even a little more oomph on the rye, but they're very, very good so far. Very good.
I think you've done wonderfully, sir, except Ford's nose is non-existent.
Are you serious? You got COVID right now.
Apparently.
This is literally the best nose.
I get nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Did I not pour these samples right?
I'm actually not
know.
getting a lot on it either.
Thank you.
I get tons of like toasted brown sugar and caramel. It's like to me is with just a touch of herbalness in the back. Like this is.
I get,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
I get a slight toasted marshmallow, but it's not, it's back, way back. You really got to like stop and smell and hope and
I mean, I honestly don't like agreeing with either one of you, but I am agreeing with TJ on this one. I hear what you're saying, Charlie, but the level of prominence with those notes is just a little bit more subtle.
when you sip it, oh my God, it is a toasted marshmallow with hints of chocolate, very complex, delicious. So the nose for me was a little lacking, but like if I sniff a little bit and then quickly go into the palate, it all just comes together and it is amazing. And now that I go back to the nose, I definitely get a little more.
As I say, I got all that on the nose initially. This very much a traditional bourbon nose to me, with just a subtle herbalness at the back, and then the palate. I'm agreeing with you on that. Just these toasted marshmallow sweetness.
I'd say like spearmint finish. There's just like a hint of peppermint spearmint back there, and then just spice galore.
Yes, it's not as spicy to me. So I agree with the spearmint comment, because that's kind of like a subtle, kind of refreshing, lingering. Mm-hmm. It's not as spicy or peppery as number 3 to me.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to remember back to number 1, but I would say on the pepper spice aspect, both 2 and 3 have substantially more. This one has really nice flavor overall. It is very enjoyable, but compared to like maybe what you look for in a traditional rye, seems watered down in that regard.
I think it depends on what you mean by a traditional rye. And I actually heard Fred Minnick talk about this recently. Can't remember, maybe he was reviewing one of the BTAC ryes, the Sazerac or the Thomas Handy. And he talked about the pervasiveness of MGP rye and how that has influenced what we traditionally think of as ryes. Whereas a lot of Kentucky ryes aren't 95.5 mash bills. And so that like people just, so I guess I'm challenging what you consider traditional.
All right, so what is this, 5? So that is wet grass and hay all the way through, and little hints of ethanol with a pepper finish that comes in very late.
Delicious. like I get this and I go, oh.
Brian must have been a livestock animal in a past life.
Yeah, no. I mean, this mix is like that grass hay with almost like a little bit of evergreen in there.
Just like high quality alfalfa.
it is, and it just
that I get after a long ride.
Yeah, and then mid palate, you just get like a quick flash of maple syrup. Like it's just there real quick and then disappears.
Yeah.
The nose, again, this is just like a mountain plateau of hay, grass, evergreen, combined with that transition to that palate, maple syrup, just like Charlie or TJ pointed out, delicious. And then man, you get that pepper kick on the end, a nice smooth ethanol note. What is not to like here?
A lot of things. But how many times you said hay and grass?
Yeah. I mean, it's good.
And it lingers,
but not.
It's actually, this is what I think of when I, or what I had thought of previously as more of a, and this is actually was on my shelf previously. If that kind of tips off maybe what it is, but this is to me what rye whiskey was, and it was expanding the horizons a bit, kind of opened it up. But this was one of again, it was on the shelf, and I wasn't disappointed that I actually owned this bottle. Okay, so wait, before you go into this is going to be a transition.
A little vanilla in the back. I don't get any hay or wet grass, which is interesting.
Did you put a little bit of vanilla syrup into apple juice?
No kidding. Wow.
Right? Thank you, TJ.
That's got I would argue
vanilla and apple.
Good quality bourbons, ryes, and whiskeys have a nice
so good.
Oily viscosity. This is a sugary viscosity. When you pour maple syrup in your mouth and you get that weird with a little bit of granulars, I almost get that on this thing.
This is very much, it runs the realm of dessert bourbon to me. I don't really call things as dessert bourbon very often because every bourbon can be a dessert bourbon, to be honest. But this would be something traditionally kind of considered as a dessert whiskey, since this isn't a bourbon, not a bourbon. But
it reminds me of.
I'm like, man, did Charlie go to Starbucks so I can get an apple cider latte with a little bit of bourbon, 2 pumps of vanilla,
apricot shot.
Yeah, it reminds me of Barrel Dovetail, just without the rum influence. I feel if they took Barrel Dovetail,
so nothing
and
like
used,
Dovetail at all.
No, very much like.
But the
Dovetail.
man finish.
If they did Barrel Dovetail, but without a rum finish barrel, and they did it with a rye. So they did a whole bunch of the sweet barrels that they do in that. That's what this is. But 7 on the nose. Hello. We're back to winning.
So this 7's the wild card. Like I wasn't even going to include it in the flight. And then I was like, I bought it.
Oh.
So I was like, well, might as well send it.
7 is savory, nice wintergreen notes, little evergreen back there, and hay. Not wet grass, hay.
Get a little bit of char, smokiness in the palate.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I tasted this the first time, I got the strongest dill pickle note that I've ever had on a bourbon. And that is something that I've heard others describe on Ryes, and I had never got that before on other Ryes that I've had. All 3 of them that I've tasted. No, I'm just kidding. I've had more than that, but this one, when I first tasted it, was just like I just took a dill pickle out of the jar and ate it. And tonight it's not that strong. It's there, but it's kind of interesting how those flavor notes hit you at certain times.
All right, so. What are we going for? How do you want to do this, Chuck? It's your
if
flight.
If you guys agree that 6 is, I think if we want to do, if you guys want to or have a consensus on what's the bottom, then we can reveal that way.
Well, how about we do? Yeah, that's what I have.
167.
Yeah.
1 being last.
No.
Or just the bottom third.
My bottom 3 in order are 6 is last, then 7, then 1.
And I've got 617.
Okay, great. So let's reveal those. I disagree on 6, but I think it's just because it's a...
They're normal. They're all good. Big surprise, Chuck's in this good stuff. So what's the bottom 3 of his good stuff?
Correct. Yep. So number 6, TJ, you actually said, hey, it would be great if you included this in the flight, even after I already sent it to you or had already bought it. This is Barrel Seagrass.
Wow.
Ooh. So you were pretty close when you were calling staring at the Barrel Dovetail. I was like, ooh, he's close. This is finished in Martinique rum, Madeira, and apricot brandy barrels.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the apricot for me comes through super strong. So this has none of the traditional rye notes, which Brian was ragging on. This wasn't a introduce your friends to rye flight. This is just a rye whiskey flight. So it is a rye whiskey, straight rye whiskey, finished in these different barrels, which those flavor notes come through. And it is super sweet, fruity. Again, something that you'd probably give to somebody if they're not a bourbon or a rye drinker, period. It's probably not bad to have this around because it would delight many other people's palates. We'll go 7 because that was the only reason I put it in there, because I got that dill pickle note. So this was actually a little bit of a disappointment. So this is Milam and Green, and this is actually finished in port barrels.
I don't get any of that port.
None. And even just the general rye, some of those traditional rye notes came through, but wasn't special to me. So a little disappointed on that one. Okay, so number 1. So TJ, you were literally dancing around I think you even said something about a wild turkey. So
yeah. That's Russell's 10.
This is 6 year. So this is the 6 year rye. Sorry, the glare of the light. So this is Russell's 6 year rye, coming in at 90 proof. 51% corn in the mash bill, which is actually a theme of a lot of these, that it's a lower percent of rye. I said corn. 51% of rye in the mash bill. That is a theme of a lot of these, is that they're lower rye, which was kind of why I was pushing back on the MGP 95.5. But I think this is a really good entry rye. The 90 proof, you kind of pick that up in this just lack of kind of robustness and kind of subdued flavors, but you get some sweet notes, you get some of the traditional rye.
Well, and I think that's kind of where you're at a disadvantage is Brian and I both very much enjoy ryes. But if I did not enjoy ryes, I would put 1 really high because it's bourbon with a hint of rye notes. And it's good. Don't get us again, Chuck doesn't send bad product. But it's just not those traditional rye notes that I'm looking for when I'm doing a rye flight. I mean, I think we all agree 4 is number 1, so it really comes to everything.
Let's just say,
else.
should we just reveal? Should we just go reverse here? Just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if we all agree that number 4 is the best? A bit anticlimactic here, but well, yeah, I guess if that's the case, then I'm just going to.
4 is number 1 for me.
Yeah, 4 is number 1. Yeah.
Same here. So I'm gonna reveal 2, 3, 5, just in consecutive order. So I'll start with number 2. And so moving up, we started with Russells at 90 proof. Moved to number 2, which is also coming in at 90 proof, or just a little above 90 proof, 95 proof actually. But this is Blue Run Rye. Rye.
I did not buy a bottle. It's really good. I'm gonna have to buy a damn.
Yeah. So I was shocked. So this was my, if Chuck's spending money, might as well spend money, and had no idea. And normally I would. This is what doing the rye flight gets me to buy some bottles I wouldn't have had otherwise. Because once it said rye, I wouldn't buy it. Right.
That is
right.
Amazing. That's. That was my number 2. That is really, really good.
I'm not disappointed with the bottle. So number 3. I enjoyed this. This was my number 2. So number 3 is Pikesville.
Wow.
So coming out of
nice.
Heaven Hill, 6-year rye, 51% rye in the mash bill, 110 proof. I think this was Fred's rye pick of the year last year.
Yeah, everybody says Pikesville is a great go-to.
And I would 100% agree. So then we jump to number 5 here. So this is one you guys have actually had. We've reviewed for the channel. This is Wilderness Trail Rye.
Nice.
So this is a single barrel pick from Benny's. So coming in, this is a 4-year pick, 115 proof. So again, barrel proof up there. And we rated this pretty favorably, so I'd say it held its own again in this lineup as well. So that leaves the reveal for number 4. What did you say, TJ? If I didn't have a bottle, I'm gonna buy one.
Yes.
Does the price point matter?
Nope.
So, regardless of price. So if this was like Kentucky Owl rye here,
if this was Old Carter rye, I'm gonna have to buy it. It's that good.
I wish I couldn't find one of those. So you already have one, TJ.
Hot diggity dog. Wow.
Rare breed rye.
Interesting. Because everybody always trashes on rare breed rye that it's not as good as they expect. So
I don't know what they expect, but actually now that I smell this again, I get a little bit of like a green tea note on the nose. A little bit of, almost a little bit of spice, like a nutmeg.
Yeah, this is.
I get what they're saying. If you want the traditional hay rye, like super rye, I guess the correct term is MGP rye notes. This does not have it. But if you want a good balance between a rye and a bourbon with tons of flavor, different complexity, everything like that, here you go.
Yeah, I still think this gives you what I'm looking for, what I like in a lot of bourbons. It gives you some of those sweet notes, but then it still lets you know it's a rye. It still gives you some of those herbal notes, but then there's just these layers of complexity on flavors that this is an incredibly pleasant drinker at 112 proof.
Yeah.
Yep.
$45 bottle. Like, wow.
Yep.
And I think what Charlie mentioned there, like it provides a blend of like maybe a little bit of traditional bourbon with the rye notes. Like the rye notes are there. They're not absent in the rare breed rye. For me, I almost thought like compared to the nose and the palate, I almost thought the finish initially was lacking at maybe as much of that peppery, oily rye finish that I want, but it's like still there. And that's the thing I like about this that I feel like is unique with that rare breed rye is it does offer all the traditional rye stuff, but it doesn't just offer those. And that's really the differentiator with this one, and why like even someone who really loves ryes is like, oh, this tastes a little special. This tastes a little bit different because I get my rye plus a little something. So
Yeah. We appreciate you guys watching. Hey, let us know in the comments below what's a rye that you really enjoy. Yes, we did not put Midwinter Night Drum. We are looking for Act 9. Hopefully we find it. But yeah, let us know what ryes you like, because you can't drink bourbon all the time. And we'll see you next time.
Ed, I hope you don't hate me too much. Stay neat.
Hour of Bourbon.